Hi, I'm Hot Scratcher, and I'm here with
Anna Esquivel, beauty and special effects makeup artist.
What's the difference between like a makeup artist and FX artist?
The main difference between beauty makeup and special effects makeup is the use of prosthetics. For instance, a beauty makeup artist is not usually responsible for wounds or blood. They're mostly responsible for making color correct or fix imperfections or give them like a glam look. Makeup effects is everything else. In order to be a beauty makeup artist, you need to be really good at makeup itself. In order to be a really good effects artist, you need to have a lot of other series of foundational art skills.
Being a makeup artist is just a starting off point for being like an FX artist. You still describe yourself as a makeup artist sometimes.
Yes, that makeup artist is the umbrella term. Effects is a type of makeup artist. There's also people in the effects world that are not makeup artists. It's not my case. I am a makeup artist. There's other people that do very specialty skills that do not require makeup, sculpting or mold making, aesthetics or fake heads. Like those people might never put a brush on a person's face.
How did you get into this job? Like, did you move to LA from somewhere else?
I'm actually a Panamanian. Was born and raised in Panama, and I have lived in Panama most of my life. I moved to LA 6 years ago exclusively to be a makeup artist for the film industry. I was very sure that that's exactly what I wanted to do. I didn't know if it was going to work out. I managed to land a job at a special effects studio. My first job was in the industry, and I've only exclusively worked in the industry ever since.
How did you get that job?
I emailed and I sent resumes to a lot of different effects studios. You know, like in LA, nobody ever answers emails.
It's only in-person referral here, like exclusively.
I had like one of those moments where I was like, how bad do you want this? So I just showed up at some guy's parking lot. I looked up this studio that was supposedly looking for an assistant. And when the owner came to work that morning, he's like, I'm sorry, like, do I know you? Like, who did we have an appointment? I'm like, no, I'm just here so that you look at my portfolio. And he's like, huh? And he was like, okay, fine, come into my studio or whatever. And I was like looking at all his work and I was like so fascinated. I guess he was so shocked by the fact that nobody had ever like literally showed up at his parking lot being like, I have printed a physical portfolio for you to look at.
People in LA love a physical portfolio.
Yes, these guys that own these studios are from the 80s. They appreciate it when people are like, look, I take this seriously. First, he hired me as an assistant just to help run the shop, answer emails, like all that kind of stuff. But slowly, I kind of became like an apprentice of him. And this is the artist that did all the creature design for the Avatar movies.
Awesome.
So he's like, you know, somebody that's very talented, and that's how I got started.
One thing I've learned about LA too is that being a PA and assistant is like a gateway to the job you want.
At that job, I had to like scrub toilets sometimes, go buy things in the heat, drive around a whole lot, but I knew that it was the price that I had to pay to earn my way.
In general, it's probably hard to get into the makeup industry.
It is very hard to get into the effects industry.
Did you go to makeup school?
I did. I went to two different makeup schools. One in London that was more beauty intensive, and then I went to another one in LA that was more focused on special effects. You have to be very honest with yourself. Do I have what it takes in the effects world? It is very hard to fake it till you make it, and some people do. Don't get me wrong. Some people definitely do. There's always going to be those people that don't get hired twice. Mostly, you just have to work really freaking hard, and you actually have to be really freaking good, because when you're not, it shows. Like, it shows, and then you're not going to get called back.
Yeah.
So you also have to be very professional, and you have to be a person that can work with a team.
Very good advice. In the makeup industry, FX industry, is it all freelance? Like, do you own your own company? And is it mostly like 1099, or do people actually get like payroll?
Two different worlds that occur within my line of work.
Oh, because there's probably like big studios with lots of employees, and then a bunch of smaller studios with freelance people.
And then there's set. Actually go to the film set and you actually touch actors' faces. There's an entire part of my profession that's considered pre-production, which is a huge part of the work and a huge part of the industry. These are the studios where you create the fake bodies, where you sculpt, cast, and mold the prosthetics, where you make the wigs.
So you're like coming in with coffee at like 8 a.m. to the workshop, and people are like air compressors going.
Yeah, exactly. It's literally that. There's no actors, there's no camera. That's like an art studio.
Yeah.
So I do those jobs a lot. Then after everything is done, you either go to set with the owner of the studio, who's usually the artist that's hired to go to set. So I do both things, but it's a very different world. When you're at a studio, you're usually a W-2 employee. You're on a payroll, you 9 to 5, but when you're on set, it's more, sometimes Sometimes it is like payroll too, but mostly it's like a freelance thing. You're representing yourself as your own company. But even within the FX studios, I have managed to position myself as a freelancer where I'm considered a hired gun. Maybe it's gonna be a month. After a month, you're wrapped and you're off to find your next job. So that's how I work. Like I move around.
That's what Danny Rose said too.
Yeah.
By the way, shout out at Daniel Rose Mua. Yeah, Danny's freelance and he's got a very good business mind.
Yeah.
And he definitely negotiates his contracts. And,
Yeah, same.
You know, I love that about LA. It's like entrepreneurial spirit, you know.
Yeah.
And if you want to do that and you can negotiate it, then you do it on your terms.
Yeah, it took a while. Like I was a full-time person for one company at the beginning of my career, but I kind of like worked myself into being a freelancer because ultimately that's what I like to do. Like,
You're a true entrepreneur. Came out here, you got the job, you worked your way up. Love to hear that story. You know?
Thank you.
Yeah. There's bigger studios, smaller studios. Where are they? Are they like all in Studio City or are they just spread out all over? Or?
I would say that the Valley is like the hub of the FX studios. If you do what I do, you kind of have to live in LA. The actual FX studios where you fabricate the things, most of them are in LA. There's only very few ones in other states.
What are some of the cool materials that you get to use? Like, is there your favorite product?
This is so makeup effects artist of me to say, but I just love silicone. I think silicone is insane. It's like everything was once upon a time made with latex, and then when silicone became the name of the game, it is so much more beautiful when you paint it. It looks the most realistic. And there's this thing called silicone fabrication, which is when you literally grab silicone, you mix it up. It's like, imagine it's like this peanut butter, and you literally spatula it in different translucencies and things to create like fake organs or like a wound or like something with like fat coming out. And there's this entire show that we did for Guillermo del Toro where my whole job was fabricating a bunch of fake organs out of silicone.
So
and it
cool.
was like playing with Play-Doh but as an adult and for a serious thing and getting paid, and it's so satisfying. I'm a big fan of fabricating with silicone, and it's just like my favorite material to
That's
work
so
with.
cool. What are some other like newer materials you guys use?
There's this
Right,
new
sculpting.
polymer clay that's called Cos clay. After it's baked, it's still flexible. It doesn't crack. You can make all kinds of little like monster maquettes and like fake teeth and stuff like that. You have to be kind of like a chemist when you work in effects.
Oh yeah, it's always
because there's so
mixing
many
up.
chemicals, and sometimes the cool part is like you invent stuff, right? Because everything in our line of work is kind of made up. It's like these guys back in the 70s and the 80s going like, hey, you know, I think dental acrylics could work for us too. And then they go and steal stuff from the medical industry and they're like, we can make teeth with this. And,
That's so
everything
interesting.
is so like garage experiments. I have had situations, I have to do something in a rush and I don't have a material with me, but I'm like, well, what do I have in my kitchen pantry? And can I replace it? And it's worked.
Wow.
One time I replaced a silicone thickener with like potato starch and it freaking worked. It just feels fun. Know that you're allowed to invent, and if it works, it works.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Wow. Where do you get materials for your job?
I'm
Spot
totally
everyone-
going to do like the unsponsored ad for Nigel's Beauty, Friends Beauty, Motion Picture Effects Company, Berman's, Reynolds Advanced Materials as well. Those are the main places where I personally buy materials. They're all in the Valley, of course. These places are go-tos and we usually get everything there.
Thank you so much for sharing your story and
Yeah,
teaching us
of
about
course.
the industry. It's been really cool. You can follow Anna at Ave Monsters on Instagram. Comment your questions below, like what do you want to know about the industry? And thank you guys so much and see you next time.